Shalom, this is your boy, your friend, your brother, Frenchie, the West African Yasharal. Today's topic, lesson investigation, is going to be about Egyptology exposed. Yes, so basically what I'm trying to do is not to expose Egyptology in the sense where I'll try to say that the pyramids and everything they find in Egypt is false. This is not what I'm trying to do, but some of these people have claimed that the Bible comes from the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead. Yeah, which is not even true. But as we know, many people throughout the centuries have tried to discredit the Bible and its truth. Yeah, and they're not going to be the first or the last. So, for those of us that know the truth, we know who we are as people. We know we're the black people, or should I say the Negroes, are descendant of the ancient Israelites. We know that, and we know that the Bible is our history. Okay, now what I'm going to expose in it, I'm going to expose the very fact that the Bible has nothing to do with the ancient Book of the Dead, or Egyptian Book of the Dead, or Book of Going Forth by Day, Night, if you want to call it like that, that I have in my possession as well. Yeah, it got nothing to do with it. Yeah, and I will lay out evidence. Yeah, progressively. Yeah, step by step, for people to understand what I'm trying to explain. Yeah, so one thing I want to say, if any of you happen to be a Egyptologist or whatever you want to call yourself, Hotep, or I don't know what you want to call yourself, yeah, if you know your stuff, if you know your truth, you will be able to watch the video from beginning to end, because me, I also watched the app. Y'all understand? Okay, so stay with me, stay tuned. I'm going to lay out my evidences, yeah, and I want y'all to be the judge. Yeah, please do not believe people because of things they say. Go and do your own investigations all the time. Yeah, very last thing I want to say. When people find things like archaeological things in Egypt or other places, City of Gold and all that, everybody clapping hands, everybody's happy. But when we find things of proof that the biblical accounts are true, everybody's against it. It must be the government, it's a hoax, whatever, blah blah blah. Let's be fair, people. Let's be fair. Yeah? And as I always say, there you go.
Christian Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, out of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Right. So that if you want to go to the source, don't go to King James. Go to ancient Egypt, and you've got a Bible that's 10,000 years older than anything that these Christians have. Right. You have students going through college, graduating with a degree, and then they can't even write their own name. I began to study the history of Africa, particularly the history of Ethiopia and Egypt. You go back and study the ancient history of Egypt, and especially the religion of ancient Egypt, and they had a Bible. I have a good English translation of it in 3 volumes in one, called The Theban Recension of the Book of the Dead. And in this, you take this Egyptian Bible and compare it with the King James Bible, which is popular among the Protestant denominations in the United States. And you study the Egyptian Bible and you study the Christian Bible. The Egyptian Bible goes back 10,000 years. The King James Bible only goes back about 300 years. And then you study these 2 books and compare them, and you find out that the Christians took the whole Christian Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, out of the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
You heard of a place called Middle East. I don't know of any place called Middle East. That's political jingoism. But we can find that there was no Moses on Mount Horeb in the Sinai to receive any 10 commandments that had not been given before or written before in Egypt, because you could go in the book of the coming forth by day and by night, the book of the dead, and and see in what is called the Osirian drama, not only those 10, but 32 more, a total of 42, which you can also go in the temple of Ramesses VI, in the Valley of the Kings, across what is today called Luxor. And in that tomb, you would see the 42 listed commandments, or otherwise negative confession, 2,000 years before the birth of Moses. But they told you that Moses was taught. He was an Egyptian, taught in school in Egypt, and became a priest in the system. Could you have been born in the United States of America, went to kindergarten, then elementary school, junior high school, and never heard of the United States Constitution, which have in it, thou shalt not kill, I have not killed man nor woman, I have not made like that bushel, I have not... Moses himself is charged with murder. His brother Aaron is charged with theft. 40 years before they reached Mount Sinai, then somebody had a law against theft and against murder before he reached Mount Sinai. Where did they get it? But you weren't taught anything about this. All of this information have been suppressed at a place called the Council of Jamia and the Council of Nicene in 3.
All right, so before we do anything, I just want to show y'all that I got the book of the dead with me, and I went through it from beginning to end, or should I say, especially the Papyrus of Ani, yeah, that I've read from beginning to end, especially this. I read the beginning to end, yeah. If you can see, even the preface and everything, the explanation about the books, because I may say that it was a lot of gibberish, you know what I'm saying, preface and everything, you know what I'm saying. I went through it. Yeah, you can see traces of me in the book, you know what I'm saying, because if you want to expose anybody, or, you know what I'm saying, you're supposed to know what's in their minds and what the evidence that they got. So that's why I got myself a book of the dead, and that's the 42 negatives or 42 confessions or declaration of innocence, yeah, that you got to make to the gods, yeah, and that people claim that the Bible took away from when it's not even true, yeah. But I would explain that in details, yeah. So you better stay tuned with me. Yeah, and please don't skip and all that. Just watch the whole thing, you know what I'm saying? Watch the whole thing. Yeah. Yeah, you can see I went through it. We almost at the end of the book, you know what I'm saying? I went through it. You know what I mean? Yeah, so nobody can say, see, it's almost at the end of the book. Yeah, nobody can say, yeah, I did this and that, I'm being unfair or whatever, because most of the time I don't see y'all, yeah, y'all people that's trying to discredit the Bible, I don't see y'all studying the Bible, I don't see y'all having the Bible and then going through it and all that. No, so a lot of mouth but no actions. I would use the Bible as well, yeah, I would use the KJV, yeah. The guy was talking about KJV is 300 years and it will get better and all that. He did not know anything about the Septuagint, yeah, which is way more older than the KJV, and is basically from the ancient Hebrew, translated from the ancient Hebrew, sorry, yeah, to the Greek, which is the very first translation of the Book of the Laws, yeah, or should I say the Torah, yeah, from the ancient Hebrew to the Greek. And look, today we got the Greek to the English, right? So I will also use this because the wording are different than the KJV, and I may say yes, the KJV contains a bit of errors, but the Septuagint clarifies it way more better, yeah. So these are the books I'm going to use. The Hebrewism of West Africa. Yeah, I may use a couple of a dictionary. Western African history. And y'all know I'm from West Africa, so I know what I'm talking about. I mean, not born in there, but originally from West Africa. Yeah, from Babylon Team Book 2. Great work over the Windsor. Shouts out to you. Yeah. Even great work from Joseph Williams. Yeah. Great work. Yeah. So these are my weapons for this documentary. Yeah. So I'm about to expose these devils. Alright, so let's take a closer look, yeah, to this matter. Alright, so the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, the beginning of the Bible, yeah, this whole Torah contains 613 laws, right? I said 613 laws. You can clearly see the differences in numbers between 42 so-called declarations of innocence and 613 laws. Y'all follow me? You repeatedly see when you read that the Most High says, "Thou shalt not." Yeah, so they say no thing about negotiation or whatever. No, thou shalt not. And you repeatedly see also, "Thou shalt." Yeah, y'all follow me? Yeah, which is way more different than "I have not." You see what I'm saying? Because in the Book of the Dead, yeah, when you read the 42 Declarations of Innocence, Annie is basically saying, "I have not," multiple times, or even all the way along. You see what I'm saying? Yeah? So, as we go in this Book of the Dead, you got 42 declarations of innocence. Yeah? Way more different than 613 laws. Yeah, because people trying to say that Moses copied the Egyptians. Y'all need to study. You can't even come up with that quick just because it sounds good or whatever, because you have anything against the Bible. So I was saying these are declarations of innocence, so it's way different than laws. Yeah, don't be fooled. Don't be deceived in everything. Yeah, also, one specific thing about these declarations of innocence is that they are for the afterlife. According to the Bible, there ain't no such things about the afterlife. Yes, read and you will know. Yes, it speaks of the kingdom and everything, but there ain't no such things about the afterlife. So, let's get back to the Torah. The Torah, yeah, the first 5 books of the Bible, yeah, they are to be respected for all days of your life. Yes, as long as you live, you have to respect Torah. Yes, what they call Jesus Christ and all that, and the apostles, they respected Torah. So one is for the afterlife, one is for every single day of your life, basically. You can clearly see the differences of cultural ideas that comes from these two different books, if I can call it like this, yeah. Alright, so we are going to check up a little bit on this Book of the Dead. Yeah. I'm going to take a look at it quickly. Yeah, you can see Egyptian Book of the Dead. Yeah, alright. So let's study this Book of the Dead quickly, see what it is about, right? And I'm going to jump into a investigation, and I know what the book is about, right? Because y'all want to say it's a Bible. Y'all want to say it's a Bible. Okay, let's read a little bit, yeah? So, the funerary papyrus, known as the Book of the Dead of Ani, is one of the most famous of all the ancient artifacts held by the Department of Egyptian Antiquity at the British Museum. I should go there, not far. Alright, let's jump down. The text of the Papyrus of Ani, however, is far from careful, being full of repetition, errors, and omission, and I've realized that through reading it. Yet, even this is instructive in providing proof that the quality of the vignette is no indication of the quality of the textual content, and that it was perfectly possible for master draftsmen to work alongside mediocre scribes. Okay, so we just know that is about funerary. So basically, when you die, But the Bible does not speak of, or the commandments in the Bible or in the Torah is not a thing for when you die. It's when you alive. It's for when you're alive, for every day of your life. You have to respect it. That's the relationship with the Most High. But anyway, I'm not going to get too preachy, yeah? Let's go down. Yeah. Here we go. Let's go down a bit, yeah? So, yeah. So, the natural book of the dead. Let's see what it's saying about it. Yeah? Let's see. The idea that the Book of the Dead was like a Bible goes back to the Middle Ages and Renaissance, long before the papyri could be read. Oh, really? Since all that was known about these mysterious documents was that they came from coffins and cemeteries, it was assumed that they were the one religious text that the deceased wished to take. Just a little bit more. Into the next world, and such a text must have been the Egyptian equivalent of the Bible. Oh, really? You sure? Y'all sure? Let's see. All through, specialists soon realized that the Book of the Dead was not an Egyptian Bible. That notion has persisted in the public imagination. The Bible and the Quran, each of which transmit a revealed message of a single supreme deity to humanity, are fundamental to their respective religions. Let's jump down. The Book of the Dead, on the other hand, is chiefly concerned with the afterlife. I keep saying it, yeah? Y'all don't do no research. You should. Its purpose was not to set forth the basic tenets of Egyptian religion, nor to guide the faithful through a religious life, but rather to assist its owner in the next world. Jump down a little bit. The Book of the Dead was never formalized into a canon. So, y'all need to understand, this is not a Bible. Yeah? It is a collection of texts from which the individual was able to choose for his or her particular scroll, based often on the combination of what could be afford and a current religious view of a period. So they have different religious view about many things. Remember, the Egyptians had thousands of gods. You know what I'm saying? Certain chapters were loosely considered to be essential, others were completely discretionary. Discretionary. Yeah? So, what y'all need to understand is that this is not a Bible, and we're reading from the people that put all these things together, yeah, that we can read today. They done the research, and they understood that this book is not like the Bible. Yeah? But if you're not happy with what the guy that made this book said about it, we can go read some other Egyptologists and they will say the same thing. But we're just doing a little research, and that's the beginning of a research of our investigation, and we know a lot. Let's read a bit more. By the early New Kingdom, the coffin texts were slowly being replaced by the work which we know as the Book of the Dead. So, just to start, yeah, New Kingdom, the Israelite or Moses were not in Egypt at the time of the New Kingdom. But we're going to get back to that later on, yeah? Sorry, like a line of singles, the groups of texts follow each other, partially overlapping and partially presenting innovation materials. All right, let's go. Then each statement of the so-called negative confession, yeah, the 42 declaration of innocence, if you want to call it like that, yeah, which the deceit proclaimed before the way of his or her heart, implied a code of behavior to be followed during life. Every I did not, or I have not, if you want, reflects an unexpected thou shalt not. Without an exemplary and moral existence, there was no hope for a successful afterlife. So, what I'm gonna get to that point too, but just to start is basic common sense, like basic moral that every single human on this planet has: to not kill, to not steal, to not cheat, to not whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? That's moral that everyone has, everywhere in the world, around the world. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But we're gonna get to that too to explain. Yeah. But we just did a little research. Yeah. And we already know a lot. We know a lot. Yeah. We know already that the Bible's got nothing to do with this. But because we got devils trying to deceive people, we got to crucify these devils. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Okay. Yeah, okay. Let's just read that quickly. The BD, which is the Book of the Dead, is not easy text to understand. Even for the specialists, there are many parts which are utterly obscure and cannot be explained conventionally. So, even me, after reading it, yeah, especially the Papyrus of Annie, yeah, I was confused. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot of gibberish, as I said at the beginning. But I still had to do it for the name of for the name of being fair, if you want to call it, if I can say it like that. Yeah, because I wanted to be fair. Yeah, and if I have to expose this devil and save your soul or give you salvation, yeah, I gotta show you that what you read or what you believe in does not make sense. You understand? If you happen to be a Egyptology, Hotep, or whatever you want to call yourself. Yeah? So, we kind of know what the Book of the Dead is. Yeah? And let's get more explanation on the Book of the Dead by other Egyptologists. Yeah? Alright. So we are now in Ancient History Encyclopedia, and we're going to have the view of another Egyptologist, and we will later on go back to the Book of the Dead and all that. Yeah? Okay, so you got the name of the guy. Yeah, Joshua J. Mark. Yeah, Egyptian Book of the Dead. So you can see they have the drawing picture right here. Yeah. Let's read a bit about it. The Egyptian Book of the Dead is a collection of spells which enable the soul of the deceased to navigate the afterlife. The famous title was given the work by the Western scholars. The actual title will translate as the Book of Coming Forth by Day, or Spell for Going Forth by Day, and more translation to English will be the Egyptian Book of Life. Although the work is often referred to as an ancient Egyptian Bible, it is no such thing, although the two works share the similarity of being ancient compilation of a text written at different times, eventually gathered together in the book form. The Book of the Dead was never confined, and no two copies of the work are exactly the same. They were created specially for each individual who could afford to purchase one as a kind of a manual to help them after death. Egyptologist Geraldine Pitch explained, the Egyptian Book of the Dead is a term coined in the 19th century CE for a body of text known to the ancient Egyptians as a spell for going forth by day. After the Book of the Dead was first translated by the Egyptologists, it gained a place in the popular imagination as the Bible of the ancient Egyptian. The comparison is very inappropriate. The Book of the Dead was not central holy book of Egyptian religion. It was just one of a series of manuals composed to assist the spirit of the elite dead to achieve and maintain a full afterlife. So that's what these Egyptologists, well-known Egyptologists saying. So they're not even religious or something like that. They're Egyptologists, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and one thing I like about these Gentiles, sometimes they have no bias when they do their research. You know what I'm saying? Now, let's read a bit more. Yeah? So we got 3 witnesses now. Remember what the scripture says. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, you can establish a matter. So my matter is established now. But I got to expose y'all devil to the fullest. Yeah. The afterlife, let's read it. The afterlife was considered to be a continuation of life on the earth, and after one had passed through various difficulties in judgment in the whole of truth, a paradise which was a perfect reflection of one's life on earth. After the soul had been justified in the whole of truth, it passed on to cross over Lily Lake to rest in the field of reeds, where one would find all that one had lost in the life and could enjoy it eternally. In order to reach that paradise, however, one needs to know where to go, how to address certain gods, what to say at certain times, and how to comport oneself in the land of the dead, which is why one will find an afterlife manual extremely useful. So I read it, and it's kind of like that too. When I read the Papyrus of Annie, it's more like guidelines for dads, you know what I'm saying? Different spells that they have to say to gods and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? Yes, I studied it. Yeah, I studied it, and this got nothing to do with the Bible. This is the reason why I can actually expose the book. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because I've met many people saying, the Bible is copied the Egyptians. I met several people, more than one, like several people saying the same thing right in my face. And make me laugh. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's read. Having the Book of the Dead in one's tomb will be the equivalent of a student in the modern day getting their hands on all the test answers they would ever need. Really? Okay, let's read a bit of the history of the Book of the Dead now. The Book of the Dead originates from concept depicted in the tomb paintings and inscription from the as early as the 3rd dynasty of Egypt. Yeah, and they give you dates and all that. Yeah, let's keep reading. These spells with accompanying illustrations were written on papyrus and placed in the tombs engraved with the dead. Yeah, let's just go down a little bit. Yeah, let's read that. Yeah, at some point to 16,000 BCE, the different spell had been divided in chapters, and by the time of the New Kingdom, the New Kingdom, remember I said again, the Israelites were not in Egypt at the time of the New Kingdom. They were there at the time of the Middle Kingdom. And I will show a little documentary after to prove that matter. All right. Let's keep it going. The New Kingdom, The book was extremely popular. Scribes who were experts in spell will be consulted to fashion custom-made books for an individual or family. And buzzles knots, the spell and password were not part of a ritual but were fashioned for the deceased. Let's scroll down a little bit. There you go. All right. Prior to the kingdom, the Book of the Dead was only available to royalty and elite. The popularity of the Osiris myth in the period of the New Kingdom made people believe that spells were indispensable because of Osiris featured so permanently in the soul's judgment in the afterlife. And I want to scroll down a little bit because you keep reading New Kingdom time after time, because basically the time where they actually put it all the spell together to make it a Book of the Dead was at the time of the New Kingdom. Yeah. Let's read a bit more. For the New Kingdom, through the Ptolemaic dynasty, the Book of the Dead was produced this way. It continues to vary in form and size until 650 BCE, when it was fixed at 190 uniform spell, but still people could add or subtract what they wanted to from the text. A Book of the Dead from the Ptolemaic dynasty, which belonged to a woman named Tenturity, had the next of the a text of lamentation of Isis and Nephthys attached to it, which was never included as a part of the Book of the Dead. Other copies of the book continued to be produced with more or less spell depending on what the buyer could afford. The one spell which every copy seems to have had, however, was spell 125. Yeah. So remember when we read from the Book of the Dead, the specialist that put the book together said that there was errors, omissions, and repetitions most of the time in the book, right? But we know in the Bible there is no errors or no contradictions, if you want to put it this way. From beginning to end
of the Bible. And then you also, number 3, have the unity of the Bible. You know, the Bible was written over a period of about 1,600 years, about 1450 BC to about 100 AD. It's a catalog of 66 different books. They were written by 40 different men, and those 40 different men had various backgrounds. Some of them were kings. Some of them were shepherds. Some of them were tax collectors. They spoke different languages. And yet, with those 66 books, there's not a single legitimate contradiction between the writings. Not only is there not a legitimate contradiction, but the writings show that a unifying hand was behind the writing of all 66 books. There is simply... And then finally, the persistence of the Bible. You know, people have tried to eradicate the Bible. They have tried to get rid of the Bible. They have attacked the Bible. It has been the most abused, the most criticized, the most scrutinized, the most attacked book in human history. The French humanist Voltaire said that he had done such a good job of proving the many errors in the Bible that 100 years from his death, the only place that you would find a Bible would be in a museum. Well, that's certainly not the case, is it? In fact, there are literally billions of Bibles that are all over the world that people are reading and distributing and passing out. Why? For the simple reason that the Bible maintains traits, qualities, characteristics that are superhuman. The Bible is not God's Word because it's popular. The Bible is popular because it is God's Word.
All right, so just to add up to the 66 books that the guy was talking about, because in our regular Bibles we get 66 books. So before you just saw the book of Joshua, now you see the book of Enoch, and there's way more books that are mentioned in the Bible and that we can't even find. This is the book of Jubilees right here. You also have the Apocrypha. If you have a KJV 1611, or if you can get a KJV 1611, or if you look it up, you will see that they contain the Apocrypha in it. And there's like plenty of books within the Apocrypha. So these are way more books than 66. You see what I'm saying? You also have the sort of Gripha Old Testament, and they have a volume 1 and volume 2. Some of these books, they find these books at different places at different times. You know what I'm saying? There's a bunch of books. That's why I'm showing that there's a bunch of books. I'm showing more than one book. For people to understand that the Bible is not only the 66 books that we got today. You see what I'm saying? And if you go through them, you'll see that they resemble the normal Bible, or the texts that are in the normal Bibles. And that's why I'm showing you the verses Bible and Book of the Dead, because this little book cannot give birth to all these books and places that are mentioned, and you can actually go there right now. You see what I'm saying? Very last thing I want to say, is that the Bible is not the white man's book. I repeat, the Bible is not the white man's book. The white man has nothing to do with the Bible. Now, I'm not trying to say that white people or wherever nation you come from can't read the Bible. No, everybody can get this wisdom. But the Bible belongs to black people. Or should I say, because there's a lot of black people on this planet, should I say the Negroes? Yeah? And the Negroes are actually the descendant of the ancient Israelites. So, alright. So what have we learned? First, we learned that there is 613 laws within the Torah. And remember, the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible. Yeah? 613 laws in the entire Torah. Right? And I forgot to mention that the Ten Commandments, yeah, is basically a recap of the 613 laws. Yeah, so about it. And on the other end, in the Book of the Dead, there is 42 declarations of innocence. Right? So if you put those two together, 613 laws and 42 declarations of innocence is a total different thing. But I say, and I may say that the 42 declarations of innocence kind of sound like the Ten Commandments, but we're going to get to that later. Now, next thing we learned. We also learned from the mouth of Egyptologists that the Book of the Dead was not a Bible to the ancient Egyptian, right? We've seen that. Yeah, even the Book of the Dead, that's what we're saying. Now, also we learned that there's a lot of errors, omissions, and contradictions within the Book of the Dead. But on the other hand, there is no one legitimate contradiction within the Bible. So you believe in the Bible or not, but we know that there is no contradiction in the Bible. So two differences and large differences between those two books. Now we're jumping into the next part of this investigation, which is the chronological order. So I was saying earlier that the Israelites were in Egypt at the time of the Middle Kingdom. Now the Book of the Dead was assembled together as the Book of the Dead, as we know now, during the New Kingdom. So basically it's a good 1,000 years between the two eras of Egyptian kingdoms. Now
Roll took Mahoney to see the replica of a monument erected just a few years after Ramesses' death by his son Meremptah. It's important because it showed that Ramesses could not be the pharaoh of the Exodus, because in his time Israel was already a nation established in the land of Canaan.
So this is the famous Meremptah stela, or what we call the Israel stela. And it actually belongs to the king Meremptah. Up there at the top you can see him facing the god Ammon. And he lists in a poetic form all the different conquered nations, the nations that are at peace. But right at the bottom we have 3 crucial lines, because this is where we find a link to the Bible. Let's read it together, okay? We have 2 reeds. That's the sound ye or e, okay? Then a bolt, which is S, an R, a mouth, an E, an A, and an L. Israel. Israel. This is the only time that we see this name on an Egyptian monument. After the name Israel, there are these 2 figures here, these 2 seated figures of a woman and a man, and 3 strokes underneath. These 3 strokes mean plural. So it means the people or nation of Israel. And then this is the interesting bit. It says, Fekti bin Peret F. Israel is laid waste, his seed is no more.
Or does it mean they were literally no more?
No, it's a sort of poetical way of saying they've been overcome, defeated.
Or pacified?
All these phrases here are like that. It's a poetical phrase, effectively.
How significant is this then to the story of the Exodus?
Well, for me it's very important, because if we're talking about Ramesses II or Meremptah being at the time of the Exodus of Moses and Joshua, this just does not fit the pattern. It's not tribes wandering around the Sinai, lost in the desert, or, during the wandering periods of Moses and Joshua. They seem to be a political entity.
This monument doesn't fit the idea of Ramesses being the pharaoh of the Exodus, because it was written shortly after his death. And it recognizes Israel already existing in Canaan as one of the significant powers of the day. And that shouldn't be, because the Bible says that the Israelites did not even begin to conquer Canaan until 40 years after the Exodus. So Ramesses could not have been the pharaoh who let the Israelites go. Solomon began his reign in 970 BC. So 480 years before this would place the Exodus around 1450 BC, 200 years before the Ramesses date. Yet the popular view continues to be that the Exodus occurred in the time of Ramesses.
It's a date that is based on very flimsy indicators, but this is where the majority of scholars look, almost out of habit, really. The earlier periods have just dropped off their radar.
And would you say that's the bottom line, why they don't find any evidence from the Bible?
I would, and I find it deeply ironic.
If I'm going where the evidence is strongest, then I've got to look beyond the Ramesses Exodus theory. And that's really encouraging, because it means that the events of the Exodus can be shifted 200 years earlier. But my challenge isn't over, because this new biblical date, around 1450 BC, still leaves the events separated from the Egyptian pattern by 200 years. I was determined to find an answer for this, and to do so, I would continue to explore the pattern that seemed to exist in the earlier period. Is there any indication in the Middle Kingdom of the next step of the Bible's sequence, a massive and sudden exodus following the death of the firstborn? Told me about something amazing that was found at Avaris.
We find an extraordinary thing happens. The archaeologists have been digging this area, suddenly find lots of pits in the ground. And in these pits are bodies, and they've been tossed into these pits. They're not buried formally. They have no grave goods or anything like that. These bodies are tossed on top of each other. They're lying strewn. You have hands and legs crossing over. What is happening here? What is going on? BTAC thinks it's actually some sort of plague that's happened, a dramatic event where suddenly they have to bury people very quickly because of contamination of the living population. So it's an emergency burial. And then, all of a sudden, all these Semitic peoples who were living there suddenly get up, they pack their bags and they leave, and the whole mound is abandoned. And we don't know for how long, and it just falls to ruin. Now, isn't that just like the story of Exodus?
120 miles to the south of Avaris, another similar abandonment was uncovered at the town of Kahun. Excavators found a walled and guarded settlement, which supported a large Semitic population. They also found documentation of slavery. Mysteriously, the inhabitants here seemed to have disappeared overnight. According to Professor Rosalie David, the town's abandonment was sudden and unpremeditated. Their goods were found in the streets and houses of Kahun, exactly where they were left, before being buried by the sands of the desert so long ago.
One of the great moments in Egyptian history is the collapse of Egyptian civilization, when these foreigners invade, these Hyksos rulers come in and destroy the land, and the Egyptian native rule is completely suppressed. Egypt is on its knees. That's what we see in the archaeological evidence at this period. And it only happens once in 1,000 years of Egyptian history. If we can link this to a very famous tradition told to us by an Egyptian priest called Manetho, he wrote a history of Egypt in the 3rd century BC. And what we end up with is a story like this. In the reign of a king called Dudimose, one of the last kings of the 13th dynasty, in his reign, God smote the Egyptians. And God here is singular. You would expect to see, and the gods smote the Egyptians, but you don't. You see God smote the Egyptians. And then, because of the smiting, whatever the smiting is, foreigners, people of obscure race, invade Egypt from the north. And they conquer the land without striking a blow, is the term. Why? Because God smote the Egyptians. Something had happened to devastate Egypt, which made them unable to defend themselves. And these marauding hordes took over the whole country. And we call this the Hyksos period. And they enslaved the Egyptians. But the point is, they could have defended themselves. They had a mighty army, except for the fact that God had smitten the Egyptians.
Uncovered a lead that led him to Oxford University. On St. James Street is the Griffith Institute, one of the greatest storehouses of Egyptological documents in the world. He was here to review the writings of the late Sir Alan Gardner, perhaps the greatest specialist in reading hieroglyphs in the 20th century. And he had a great hand in uncovering what we know today.
I was moved as I looked through his personal notes. In some ways, I was following a path that he had helped to clear. After a lifetime of searching, Gardner wrote something that directly impacted the question I was dealing with.
It must never be forgotten that we are dealing with a civilization thousands of years old, and one of which only tiny remnants have survived. What is proudly advertised as Egyptian history is merely a collection of rags and tatters.
If all we have is rags and tatters, how sure can we be about the dates? Alan Gardner said that what we have is rags and tatters. Is that still true today, or do you think that's changed?
No, I think that basically is true. What's interesting about the source material from ancient Egypt, though, is that those rags and tatters are more numerous and of a more varied kind than almost any other civilization on the face of the earth. You name it, every kind of material imaginable has come down to us. Not complete, but tantalizing rags and tatters. And it's a wonderful thing to have all of this material, but it's also extremely frustrating because it means there's that much more room for argument and doubt.
Kent Weeks made no indication that he'd be in favor of anything as major as shifting Egypt's history by centuries. But the reality is, a shift wouldn't just affect Egypt, because the archaeological dates for Canaan and the surrounding region are all dependent on Egypt's history.
When all is said and done, it's the Egyptian chronology that underpins everything else that's being done throughout the rest of the known world. It's a big responsibility, and it's one of the reasons that people look at it so closely, because in terms of reconstructing ancient history, a lot hinges on the answers.
So if Egypt's historical dates are not that certain and need adjusting, then Canaan's history would also require the same kind of shift, because they're connected. But a lot of people don't want to do that.
No, because Egyptian chronology has been assumed to be fixed now for a very long period of time. So the whole idea of taking it apart and starting again is anathema to most Egyptologists.
Because it would undo a lot of their books, wouldn't it?
Well, it certainly would, yes.
But there is mounting evidence that the current reconstruction of Egyptian history has major problems that have nothing to do with the Bible.
There's a whole host of reasons for being skeptical about the current Egyptian chronology. Some of them to do with Egypt itself, but a lot of them from outside Egypt, which a number of people are beginning to look at.
Other good scholars maintain that you don't need to change Egypt's timeline in order to see evidence for the Exodus. But the only place that I saw a pattern matching all the steps was in the Middle Kingdom, not the New Kingdom. And if that's not a coincidence, it would require some kind of major change. Either the Exodus happened long before 1450, or the dates for Egypt's timeline are off.
The debate over the dates of ancient history is intensifying. While the conclusions of those who support major adjustments differ in their details, they're all of the same mind, that these things are worth investigating and that chronology isn't fixed and isn't final. Researchers like Roll and Bimson believe the main problem lies in these lesser-known dark periods of Egypt's past. They think scholars have miscalculated their lengths, causing distortions in the dates for everything before them. The biggest suspect is this very long third dark period, which new information suggests has been overinflated by centuries. If it were reduced, the history of Egypt would need to move forward in time.
For many years, I was intimidated by the giant of Egypt's dating. But what made me take a second look was when I learned that it's been necessary to insert gaps into the histories of all the surrounding civilizations in order to match the dating of Egypt's third dark period. Yet the archaeology of these cultures does not seem to support such gaps. Something was wrong.
What might Egypt's history look like if the dark periods were adjusted in a way that some scholars believe the evidence demands?
Changing is the Bible timeline, because that's not affected by it. If you're changing the Egyptian timeline, you're moving it against the Bible timeline. So all of a sudden, things that were not in the right time period between the two are suddenly lining up in a different way. And that's the exciting bit, because that's when we suddenly start to find evidence for the biblical story.
It's startling to think how significant this could be, because chronology, the dates assigned to these events, is the thing being used to convince the world that the Bible is just a fairy tale. But look at the pattern. Evidence matching Joseph and the early Israelites' arrival in Egypt, their tremendous multiplication, their descent into slavery, the judgment and collapse of Egypt, the deliverance and exodus of the Semitic population, and finally in Canaan, evidence matching the conquest of the Promised Land. I know there's a lot of disagreement over the dating, but what strikes me is that if you put all the dates to the side for a moment, what emerges from the archaeology is this pattern that matches the Bible every step of the way. And doesn't that deserve to be taken seriously?
All right, so I showed that the Israelites were in Egypt at the time of the Middle Kingdom, right? Now, I said earlier that basically the Book of the Dead was assembled as the Book of the Dead by the time of the New Kingdom, yeah? But let's quickly read from the Book of the Dead and what the specialists have to say about it. By the early New Kingdom, the coffin texts were slowly being replaced by the work which we know as the Book of the Dead, like a line. Yeah, these groups of texts follow each other, partially overlapping and partially presenting innovative materials. Yeah, and then you go down a bit, you read all through the Book of the Dead, focus on the afterlife. Some of its chapters are said to be equal in this world. Similarly, its moral content applied to this life. And then you read a bit more. Each statement of the so-called negative confession, which deceit proclaimed before the weighing of heart or of his or her heart, implied a code of behavior to be followed during life. Yeah, every I did not reflect an unexpected thou shalt not. Without an exemplary and moral existence, there were no hope for a successful afterlife. All right, cool. So now we know that the Book of the Dead, or the Papyrus of Ani, was assembled during the time of the New Kingdom. Yeah, before that, it was just a collection of spells. Yeah, and what you're gonna see is that the 42 negatives too. Yeah, because the 42 negatives were followed by the weighing of heart. And all that dates from the New Kingdom. Prior to that, this weighing of heart and the 42 negative was not. You see what I'm saying? But let me show you by the mouth of a Egyptologist. So now we are on this website, yeah, and this was made by Egyptologists themselves, yeah, and it speaks of the Book of the Dead. They give you information about the Book of the Dead. They talk about the Middle Kingdom and everything, you know what I'm saying? Coffin text and all that, as you can see. Yeah. Now, let's see what they have to say about the 42 negative confessions. right? Or the 42 Declaration of Innocence, if you want to call it like that. Yeah, let's see what they have to say. The Book of the Dead, chapter 125a. Yeah, let's read. Chapter 125 is famous in modern studies of ancient Egypt for its tabulate denial of wrongdoings. The Negative Confessions, chapter 125b, and for illustration that generally accompany the composition depicting the weighing of heart of the dead individual in the presence of the god Osiris, ruler of the dead. Most manuscripts include an address to Osiris, in which the deceased declares innocence of a series of sins on arrival at the board court of the two goddesses of what is right. This introductory passage was labeled by Edward Neville, chapter 125a, in his standard edition of a New Kingdom Book of the Dead. Alright, let's read the last one now. There are no written sources earlier than the New Kingdom. Yeah, the later temple oaths are modeled on the same lines and as with chapter 125, it is possible that the denial of sin in this manner derives from a ritual of taking an oath of purity before entering the temple service. Alright, so what I was trying to explain from the beginning is that the Israelites were in Egypt at the time of the Middle Kingdom, and we saw the documentary, and there's much proof and much evidence to back this up. So now, what I'm trying to say is that Moses could have not copied, and it's impossible that Moses had copied the 42 negative confessions, because if he was in Egypt at the time of the Middle Kingdom, which was earlier than that, yeah, it would have never known about the 42 negative confession, because if you study Egyptian religion, yeah, it varies, it changes throughout the years and centuries. They don't have the same conception of religion all the time. And remember, these people had thousands of gods. So once again, as you can see, there are no written sources earlier than the New Kingdom. So it's speaking on the negative confessions and weighing of heart, because they go hand in hand. Yeah. So now we shut down these devils. Yeah, these devils are exposed. Yeah. So let's carry on. Then we need to slaughter and cut them off and murder these devils. So let's get it. Just sort of wrote another one just to kill it quickly. Yeah. Papyrus of Ani. So let's see what Wikipedia got to say about it. The Papyrus of Ani is a papyrus manuscript with cursive hieroglyphs and color illustrated, created in 1250 BCE in the 19th dynasty of the New Kingdom of ancient Egypt. Egyptians compiled an individualized book for certain people upon their death, called the Book of Going Forth by Day, more commonly known as the Book of the Dead, typically containing declarations and spells to help the deceased in their afterlife. The Papyrus of Ani is a manuscript of compiled for the Theban scribe Ani, and they give you some information about it. And when you scroll down a little bit, remember, yeah, it was done in the New Kingdom. And let me check negative confession. Yeah, and they show it, all of them. They show all of them. Yeah, and they show what it comes from and all that. And then you can read. Yeah, you can read the weighing of heart and all that. Yeah. And you read again, Egyptians were often entombed with funerary texts in order to be well equipped for the afterlife, as mandated by ancient Egyptian funerary practices. These often serve to guide the deceased through their afterlife, and most famous one is the Book of the Dead, Papyrus of Ani, known as ancient Egyptian as the Book of the Coming Forth by the Day. Yeah, Remember, again, it all start with Annie. You see what I'm saying? Because, you see, from Papyrus of Annie, 42 negatives. Yeah? And the thing is, remember, Annie was born during the time of the New Kingdom. So it could have never met Moses or been an inspiration for Moses. So what y'all got to understand is that the Israelites, were in Egypt at the time of the Middle Kingdom, so a good 1,000 years before the New Kingdom, and the 42 negatives were assembled together as a declaration of innocence in the time of the New Kingdom. So again, y'all need to study before to say that the Book of the Dead is before the Bible, or should I say that the Bible copied the Book of the Dead. You know what I'm saying? Alright. So let's keep it going. Let's expose more. Alright. So as we continue to expose these devils, we have already proved that the Israelites were in Egypt at the time of the Middle Kingdom. And that the Book of the Dead and the 42 Declaration of Innocence were assembled together at the time of the New Kingdom, which makes it impossible for Moses to have copied them. Y'all follow me? Okay. Now, another thing, I want to go further and prove that the places and people that I mentioned in the Old Testament of the Bible that are supposed to be prior to the existence of Moses, they existed. Y'all follow me? So we know that the Middle Kingdom era of Egypt started from 2050 BC up till 1710 BC, right? Now, question, do y'all know the existence of the EBLA tablets? So EBLA was an economic power and a cultural center of the land of Canaan at its time, right? Now, the important things about the EBLA tablets is that they revealed and confirmed the existence of Abraham, David, and Sodom and Gomorrah. So these people and places are mentioned in the Old Testament, but prior Moses. Y'all follow me? And there's been a lot of controversy about it. People say, no, it's not true, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? All the time when we come up with truth about the Bible, people want to stop it. These devils want to stop it. But it's fine. The most interesting thing about these EBLA tablets, is that they also have Hebrew name and even other places that are mentioned in the Bible, you know what I'm saying, and which makes it more interesting because we know that the EBLA were kind of like the KEMETH, but the most important thing about the EBLA tablets, and my point, is that they have dated these tablets, and the tablets dates from 2500 BC. Y'all follow me? So before even the era of the Middle Kingdom of Egypt. Y'all follow me? Which proves that the evidence of the Bible was true, and it's even way before the Israelites entered Egypt. Y'all follow me with the chronological order?
Incorporated, used by permission in 1974-75. An Italian archaeologist Paolo Methi of the University of Rome was excavating the Mount of Tel Marduk in Syria, when his team discovered a room containing nearly 1,800 complete clay tablets. The EBLA tablets dated from around 2,500 before Christ to 2,250 before Christ, the date the city was destroyed. It turns out Methi had unearthed the records for EBLA, an ancient city and trade empire that flourished and was sacked nearly 10 centuries before Moses. The writing on many of the tablets was in a hitherto unknown language, but as Dr. Pittinato, the team's epigrapher, deciphered them, he discovered that EBLA had a complex code of laws, many of which resembled the Old Testament commandments, which would be written about 1,000 years later. Sacrifices for sin, purification rites, and even scapegoats were known in EBLA. This contradicted skeptics, who had previously argued that Moses couldn't have written his law at the time of the Exodus, because codified laws didn't exist that early. The EBLA tablets also contain many Semitic names such as Adam, Abraham, Esau, Ishmael, David and Saul. They also discuss the Canaanites and Hittites and refer to ancient Jerusalem, Hazor, Megiddo and other cities mentioned in the Bible. Dr. Pirinato reported that Sodom and Gomorrah were named as cities with which EBLA traded. Other scholars dispute this, claiming that the inscriptions instead stand for the names of cities in Syria. Much of the early speculation that the tablets contain the name of Yah, the short form for Yahweh, as endings of people's names is now also disputed. Nevertheless, the discovery of the ancient library of EBLA has done much to confirm many of the Bible's accounts, and to shed light on the ancient civilizations that were the backdrop of the Old Testament. Unquote. This photograph shows EBLA tablet found at EBLA in Syria.
Alright, so we're continuing to expose these devils and showing the reality of the Bible and the truth of the Bible, right? So let's see if the events of the Old Testament prior Moses really occurred, right? So Genesis chapter 8 verse 4, let's read. And the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the Mount Ararat. Yeah? So let's see if it really happened. And let's go to Ararat right now.
The mortal remains of the great boat that Noah and his family rowed to safety. When I arrived at the boat-shaped object, I was amazed at how much it looked like a boat. If you've ever seen a boat that had a hole in it and had partially sunk down to where just the railings of the boat were above the water, this is exactly what I saw sitting out there on that mountainside.
Located approximately 15 miles south of Mount Ararat, the site is located atop Doomsday Mountain. Its elevation? 6,375 feet above sea level. The dimensions are confirmed as approximately 515 feet in length, corresponding with the aerial photo survey and ground measurements made by the Turkish-U.S. expedition. It appears a long boat-shaped semi-oval with a mound in the center. 20-foot earth-packed rims outline the immensity of the structure. It rests on sedimentary Cretaceous water-laid rock. This suggests that the entire valley was once immersed in water, an important criteria for establishing this area as the possible landing site of the Ark. Although soil samples for chemical analysis are in order, Ron Wyatt lacks the appropriate permits, and so must satisfy himself with his only substantial evidence: made ship. The sides of the object clearly exposed, the outline of the hull as evident now as the object's incredible mass.
It simply dropped the earth away from the outside of the boat and left the rib timbers and other structures of the boat out there where you could see them. Also, there was a vertical split right down the center of the boat, which enabled me to measure the depth of the boat, plus get good, clean, fresh sample material out of there to have analyzed to tell us more about the chemical composition of the boat.
These two photos, post and pre-quake, establish the extent of nature's timely excavation. On the left, a photo taken in 1960 by the Turkish-U.S. team. At right, a photo taken by the Wyatt expedition in 1979, shortly after the earthquake. These photos clearly illustrate the large quantities of earth displaced from the sides of the object, before the quake and after. The quake has cracked the object down the center, allowing fresh soil samples to be taken for analysis. Samples are taken from the near vicinity as well to identify any significant differences in quantities of trace chemicals. The samples are rushed back to the United States, where they are immediately analyzed. The results are electrifying. A high carbon content in the soil taken from where the boat's timbers are exposed provides evidence of long decayed wood. Traces of metal are detected, revealing the possibility of objects such as metal supports. These are the first factual signs that the object is not simply a natural phenomenon, but may prove to be man-made.
Soil samples have been taken from the formation on 2 different occasions, in 1979 and again in 1984. It's the 1979 samples that first gave the clue that there is a distinct difference in the amount of carbon in the formation as opposed to the field outside of the formation. I have the reports here. If there was wood in this formation, that kind of reading with 5% of carbon content would point to it. That's the kind of reading you would expect to get from the decayed wood.
Once we became aware that there were concentrations of metal in this boat formation that were associated with what appeared to be structural remains, the next obvious step was to investigate the site with the use of metal detectors. We set up a expedition with permit to go out with 4 types of metal detection equipment, and with this we carefully surveyed the boat, and we laid out survey tape on top of the ground or on top of the formation to indicate the position of the metal patterns in the boat.
5 field research specialists, including Dr. John Baumgartner, a physicist from Los Alamos National Laboratories, accompany Ron on his next expedition. Using metal detection devices, they construct from the evidence gathered the unmistakable pattern, the regular features delineating a symmetrical, internal, subsurface structure of massive proportions. Dr. Shea.
You could call the year from August of 84 to August.
Boat also, the area that had been left bare when the earth fell away during the earthquake, and the rib timber patterns and the keelson patterns were very obvious there along the sides also. Now, another thing we did with these metal detectors, where we spotted high concentrations, say of iron, for example, we were able to collect a sample of 91% pure iron that showed preferential gradients under microscopic examination. And in our language, that meant that this had been hand-worked.
Ancient man-made ship.
Basically, the radar scans show the same thing that the metal detector scans did, only with more detail. They show there is a pattern. They show there's a pattern of linear lines, there's a pattern of cross lines, and there's a pattern of even distribution to these lines in both directions. Now, that's precisely what you would expect out of the remains of a ship-type object, because you would have a keel, you would have parallel lines, which would be keelsons, and you would have the transverse lines, which would be bulkheads and other reinforcing of the ship. For survey work and even scanning work. There are other types of scans that could be done. I don't know that it would be that helpful really to get more scans. What we really need now is excavation. But I would say that each one of these positive steps does point directly identifying this formation as containing remains of Noah's Ark. But the final proof of the pudding ultimately must come from excavation.
We're delighted with the results, and at this point in time, personally, I can look anybody in the eye and say that this boat-shaped formation in eastern Turkey is actually the remains of Noah's Ark.
Human nature to want to know our origins and to fill in the blanks of unwritten history. To justify spiritual beliefs, many have tried to confirm the existence of God with black and white facts. While there is factual evidence that the remains of a boat are buried on Ron's Mountain, there's nothing conclusive to prove.
Noah's Ark looked like. Now the deck portion of the boat shows up very clearly on the radar scans, and we have reproduced that here in the deck portion of the model.
Now, the boat itself is very unique internally as well as externally. And in this end, we find the bracing to hold the hull out and to maintain its strength in a stormy sea. As you look up the boat here, you find that there's many chambers in here, which no doubt were the areas that the animals were kept in. Up near the front, we have a ramp system which allowed the animals and the people that occupied the boat to move from one level of the boat to the other. And this, of course, begins at the door.
We've gone about as far as we can go.
All right, so let's get back to the Book of the Dead. Yeah, I just want to say thank you if you made it this far. Thank you if you made it this far. All right. I was saying earlier, there's no such things about life right after death, if I can say it like that, according to the Bible. Now, I want to go into the Egyptian Book of the Dead to point out these differences between those two books, yeah, and to get the Egyptian point of view about life after death quickly. Yeah, so let's go to page, or should I say plate 24A, yeah, and then let's read. So all this that you see there represent this, yeah, and then they give you basically a quick explanation about what you just read, because really and truly, if you read that, I don't think you're going to understand. But anyway, so let's read. If one says this chapter while pure, it means going forth by day after he has been buried, so it's still afterlife, yeah, in the assumption of whatever of his form which he desire. Okay, so let's go further and let's see what they say more. So we on plate 27B, right? And let's read. So, as for him who knows this pure chapter, it means going out into the day after death and being transformed at will, being in the suit of whenever, being content with the food of Osiris, having invocation offerings, seeing the sun, and it means being held on earth with Re and being vindicated with Osiris, and nothing evil shall have power over him. Okay, so so y'all get it, yeah? So basically, all these things is about after death. But to say that the Book of the Dead, yeah, is a bit like the Bible or whatever is crazy, because they have two different concepts about life after death. Yeah, so people that have not read the Bible basically do not understand this fact. Let's go back to the introduction and preface, and then let's read. So I'm on page 34 right now. And let's read. The Book of the Dead, at turns so familiar and so alien to our belief, offers a unique vintage point for examining Egyptian religion and its worldview. The Book of the Dead promised resurrection to all mankind as a reward for righteous living. Long before Judaism, Christianity embraced that concept. So, two things I want to say is that Christianity is not in the Bible, basically, and Judaism, they made up that word. So, anyway, another thing I want to say, this is extremely true, because I said again, in the Bible, there is no such things about afterlife, but we're just trying to get the Egyptian point of view to show the differences after later when we're going to read the Bible, read out of the Bible. Yeah? So, we're going to go back. Yeah? Traveling around this book. Yeah? And see the things that I say. Okay. So, the judgment of the dead. Alright. Underlying all such protestation of virtue, strong and consistent belief that people will be judged after death according to their deeds in this life. This means that the Egyptian concept of afterlife were deeply with a moral sense. Okay, let's jump down. The first indication of a belief in a divine judgment for one's life did appear in the Old Kingdom tomb inscription warning those who might violate the purity of the tomb that the God will judge it against him, or it will be judged against him. Alright, so now we clearly understand that these people believe in a life right after death, or even in being judged after death. But there ain't no such thing in the Bible. That's the point. That is the point. And we're gonna check that right now. Alright, so now we're in the Bible now to see what the Bible has to say about afterlife or life after death. I told y'all there's no such things about life after death, or should I say, right after you're dead, there's no such things about another life in the Bible. You follow me? So, yes, the Bible speaks of going to the kingdom of heaven, but it's not right after your death. Believe me. Alright, so let's see what the Bible has to say. Yeah, just showing the differences between the Bible and the Book of the Dead. Alright, so Psalms 115, and we want verse 17 and 18. Let's read. The dead praise not Yahuwah, neither any that go down into silence. What? So people go down into silence when they dead? Basically. Let's read again. Let's read more. But we will bless Yahuwah from this time forth and forevermore. Praise Yahuwah. Okay, so the dead praise not Yahuwah. Okay, let's read Job. Yeah, let's go to Job. Yeah. Let's go to Job. Yeah, Job chapter 14. Yeah, Job 14, verse 12. And we want verse 12. Job chapter 14, verse 12. Yeah. And we read, so man lieth down, and riseth not till heaven be no more. They shall not awake nor be raised out of their sleep. What? So you telling me when you die, when you lay down, you're not coming back till heaven be no more? But I swear, it makes me think about something, because I know that when Mashiach, the one y'all call Christ, comes back, there's no more heaven. There's no more heaven. But we're going to read that later on, yeah? Later on. Let's read something else, because y'all don't understand the Bible, yeah? You see, back then, when I was Christian, yeah, I used to talk to white people sometimes, or like atheists or whatever, yeah? And they'd be like, oh, I don't believe when you're dead, you're going to heaven. And I'll get mad. I'll be like, what? I'm going to heaven because I've been a good Christian. When it's not even true. These white people were right. They were right when they were telling me there's nothing after death. Of course, you're just sleeping till the day of your judgment. Or should I say, to the day that the Most High will judge the whole earth. But we're going to read that later. So, now let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter... Yeah, Ecclesiastes chapter... Ecclesiastes. Yeah, Ecclesiastes chapter... Yeah, so Ecclesiastes chapter... So Ecclesiastes chapter 9, and 1 verse 5 and 6. Yeah. Ecclesiastic chapter 9. And we want verse 5 and 6. Let's read. For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything, neither have they any more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Verse 6. Also their love, and their hatred, and their envy is now perished, neither have they any more a portion forever in any things that is done under the sun. So, remember what we read in Job, yeah? The dead rise not, yeah? And they be sleeping till heaven be no more. It's the same thing, basically. You have no feelings, you have no nothing, because it's all gone, you're just sleeping. You see what I'm saying? So, if your mom, your dad, or any of your relative, or your friend, your boy, your whatever is dead, they're sleeping right now. Yeah? So when the Egyptians talking about after death, afterlife, or whatever, it is all nonsense. And it makes more sense now that people are sleeping. You know what I'm saying? They're asleep, basically. Sorry. It makes more sense to me, basically. Yeah. It makes more sense. There's nothing after your death. Of course. And people say the Bible is nonsense. Wow. Really? Really? Now let's read, let's read John chapter 5. John chapter 5. And we want verse 28 and 29. John chapter 5, verse 28 and 29. And that's Mashiach speaking, yeah? Your sweet Jesus speaking, yeah? Yahusha, the real name. So he says, marvel not at this, for the hours is coming, in the which all they that are in the graves shall hear his voice, and shall come forth they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. Okay, so once again, yeah, remember till heaven be no more. Yeah, so your dead people are sleeping. This nonsense of afterlife, yeah, it's not in the Bible at all. Yeah, and this is why when we read in the thing just earlier that that some of the beliefs of the Egyptians, yeah, stayed in Christianity, yeah, that's true. Because Christians will tell you, you will go to heaven when you die, blah, blah, blah. When even the very God that they say that they're following says that there's no such thing. Yeah, the very book that they say that they believe in says there's no such things about life after death. Y'all follow me. But yet, y'all still want to go to churches and all that. Anyway, let's read Acts. Yeah, look at the book of Acts, chapter 2. Yeah, verse. We want 29. Yeah, just to understand something. And we're gonna jump to verse 34. Men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David, that is both dead and buried. And his sepulchre is with us unto this day. 34. For David is not ascended into heavens, but he saith himself, Yahuwah said unto my Lord, sit thou on my right hand, yeah, until I make thy foes thy footstool. So basically, even King David is not in heaven, right? So one of the most notorious or famous king of the Bible, yeah, according to the Bible, is not even in heaven yet. Y'all follow me? Y'all think it's a joke. You're following these devils talking about life after death, selling you dreams. Yeah. And I told y'all that this got nothing to do with the Bible. Yeah? So, just to connect with Job chapter 13 verse 12. Yeah, I'm just going to read it back and then connect it with the New Testament. Yeah, so Job chapter 14 verse 12. I'm going to read it again. And it says, so man lieth down and riseth not till heavens be no more. They shall not awake nor be raised out of their sleep. Okay, yeah. So we're going to Mark. Yeah, Mark. We're going to Mark. Yeah. Mark chapter 13. And we want verse. Yeah, verse 25 and 26. So Mark 13, verse 25 and 26. Yeah. All right. Let's see. And the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. 26. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. Okay, so that's your heaven be no more. And that's the time when the dead comes to life. Yeah, that's why I've read in John chapter 5. Yeah, if you want to go to there. Yeah. Yeah, John chapter 5, verse 28 and 29. Yeah, that's why I read that. Marvel not at this, for the hours is coming, in which all dead are in the grave shall hear his voice. You see? And shall come forth, they that have done good, unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. So that is when you shall go heaven or hell. But when you die, you just sleep till heavens be no more. Y'all get it? Yeah? So just to make the connection before I go, yeah? So the Bible has got nothing to do with the Book of the Dead. It's clear. By the way, I just wanted to let y'all know, in case you want to do some further research, there's evidence for the Red Sea crossing and Mount Sinai. It's all over the net. You can research, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And other thing, yeah, you are not an Egyptian, yeah, but you are a Hebrew Israelite. You get it now? Yes, you are. And let me prove it to you.
هذا الرجل الذي يخرج على شعبه لكي يهدد ويلوح بالعنف يقف علينا رئيس الجمهورية الآن، رئيس الجمهورية السابق المجنون بالسلطة، المجنون بالقدس، هذا الرجل الملاوع الكذاب الخادع، وتلك الجماعة التي لا تعرف تلك الجماعة.
طب خلاص اشرب ميه اهدى يا استاذ ايهاب مش كويس كده اهدى معلش طب اهدى.
هو مش عارف هيروح لربنا، مش هيلاقي محمد بديع جنبه ولا خيرت الشاطر، هيتدفن سمنت نجيب له ايه اكتر من 33 مليون في الشارع، ما بيشوفوش امي، مش عايزين اللي حصل في البلد بسببهم. قعدوا يتكلموا عن المؤامرات، بيكلمني عن ايرادات في الخارج والداخل هو اللي بعت لي بريد وبعت لاوباما ويحتمي بيه امريكان. هذا الرجل ما فيش راجل قاعد في الثانيه رئيس جمهوريه يطلع على شعبه يحس انصاره عليه الان. هو عاوز يقتتل صباحا كل جنب حرام كل جنب يفعل الوطن حرام وتقبلها محمد مرسي. عيط ضرب الهدفاتي غير ما يمشي محمد مرسي. ما فيش وطن شريف غير ما يوصل في الميادين. احنا وراتنا نخرج الناس للمهدي ما كناش عاوز نخرجهم زي ما محمد مرسي عمل. ايه اللي عمل ده؟ ايه الجرائم دي؟
Egyptians are black. The real Egyptians are black. Because the real Egyptians, they are real Africans. So those people in Lower Egypt you see in Cairo, Alexandria, and Falahin's area, they were mixed between the Turkish, Mamluks, French, English, Romans. So those people who come to attack Egypt in that time, they couldn't come to Upper Egypt, to the south, which we still had the same color, our dark color or black color. So they couldn't mix with us.
Next question. Okay, what question?
إنما البيض اللي كلهم you see I explained to him about the Nubians and the Egyptians. They were not white, they are black Africans. So he say now ليه هنا الناس لسه سمر في الصعيد وفي بحري بيض. بحر الدورة مش أصلا مش أساس مصر خالص. He said the people in Lower Egypt, most of them they are not Egyptians. They are Greeks, Francois.
Alright, so now let's prove with the Bible that the Israelites were black. Yeah? Quickly. So Genesis chapter 42 verse 3. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. Alright, cool. Yeah. So still in Genesis 42. So Genesis chapter 42 verse 8. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. So if the Israelite was supposed to be white, yeah, how comes in the land of black people they cannot recognize their brother if he's supposed to be white? Y'all following me? You see what I'm saying? Yeah? We need to ask ourselves questions sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Yeah? Because we all know the Jewish people, they're white now, and they pretend to be the Israelites, but they don't look like the Egyptians. But as we read, the Egyptians look like the Israelites. Okay, Acts chapter 21 verse 38. Now, and that's Paul. They asked the questions to Paul. The Romans asked the question to Paul. Are that not that Egyptians, which before this day made us an opprobrium and led us out unto the wilderness, 4,000 men that were murdered? So if Paul was a white man, yeah, how can they mistaken him for an Egyptian, which the Egyptian we know were black? So basically, if the Israelites if the Egyptians were black, the Israelites must have been black too. Period. Matter of fact. So now, why do we have these people pretending to be the Israelite? Yeah? Who are these people? Because as we read in the Bible, the Israelites are supposed to be black, as were the Egyptians.
To the casual observer, they look and live much like any other traditional Southern African community. But if you scratch below the surface, there are some intriguing differences.
Here I am in South Africa, and there are these men wearing skull caps and talit, shoulder wraps. You would see this in any synagogue in America or Israel, but I never thought I'd see it here in South Africa.
I want to find out how these people seem to have Jewish customs. Samuel Moeti is president of the Lemba Cultural Association.
Pleasure. So,
I'll be honest. I came into this village and the first word I heard was shalom, the Hebrew word.
Yes.
How is that possible? How is it that the Lemba are speaking Hebrew?
The Lembas are the original Hebrews, and they were scattered, as you know, and they crossed into Africa. So they were scattered all over. So in South Africa, in many parts of South Africa, you find the Lembas who are actually Hebrews.
Hebrews. So the Lembas claim to be descendants of ancient Israelites?
Not claim, they are.
They are?
They are.
Okay.
We are the original African Hebrew. We are scattered all over.
Can you give me a few examples of some of the Jewish?
Yes, we don't participate.
The Lemba story goes like this. Thousands of years ago, they were forced out of Israel and settled in a place called Senna, which is believed to be the present-day Yemen. There, they lived as traders and craftsmen until war or natural disaster pushed them across the Red Sea and into Africa. Then began a slow migration south. Along the way, according to the Lemba, they built great stone cities. It's a claim that's fascinating. EBLA is convinced that Samuel Moeti thinks about the DNA evidence. So the genetic testing actually proved to the doubters what you and your forefathers have been saying for generations. That must be exciting news.
It is.
I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of the Lemba. I knew very little about the people. But having spent time making the journey from Jerusalem down through Zimbabwe, having spent time here at this festival, seeing what your people are all about, I can only sum it up in one word, and it's shalom.
Shalom.
We've seen how science has backed up the claims of the Lemba in the face of years of doubt and prejudice. The archaeological clues, the DNA evidence, and the Lemba's own oral history add up to a very convincing argument. It was hard to believe that a tribe of black Africans could be the descendants of ancient Israelites. But that's exactly what they appear to be.
Brothers and sisters, they are there. We are not lost. We are scattered. We are original Hebrew.
Of the Adangbes was that almost all the ethnic groups in Ghana migrated from somewhere before the early, let's say, 15th century.
Okay.
Our history goes deeper. In fact, the ancient Ghana Empire that even inspired our first president to take the name Ghana was a vast territory. It engulfs almost the whole of the sub-Saharan western part of Africa, right after the desert. Yeah. That shows you how vast the indigenous people have traveled all the way before they come and settle here. So the different tribes, the different ethnic groups within the Greater Accra got these differences through the migration patterns they used before they arrived here in the place we call Accra. The Adangbes and the people of the Gans, the people who speak Gan, the Adangbes speak a different dialect known as the Dangbe. The Dangbe is like a sister country to the Gan language. And they've written book and they have a history, especially the indigenous people of here have a direct history of migration through Israel. Have a direct history of migration through Israel. Migration through Israel. In fact, our festivals we are about to celebrate somewhere in August. Talks about some of the history of while they were migrating to this present stage they call La or Greater Accra. They encountered a lot of hunger. Once they made a walk, they transited through Nigeria all the way from Israeli-Palestine border, migrated all the way before they came to settle here. So I'm just telling you this to know how far we've came from before we arrived here. So it tells you we have a huge history. Yeah.
And then the history of...
In America, there was a slave trade. And a lot of the slaves, a very high percentage of them, came from Western Nigerian ports. And in America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. You know, so what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is, most likely there is something there. And most likely, maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today, who are white, Caucasian people, came in a little bit later on. We know that some of the greatest sages of the transmission of the Torah were converts from Rome. You have a man named Onkelos who wrote a commentary on the Torah, unprecedented, that we still learn today. He was a convert. Some of the largest pillars on the transmission today were Roman converts. So here we are, we're Caucasian Jewish people, and now you have people in Africa saying that they're the real people of Israel. It can't be ruled out at all. We know they were sold into slavery. We know now that they're fulfilling prophecy.
Okay, so as you can see right now, this is my mom's ID. Yeah, can you see the name Zeba on the ID? Z-E-B-A, right? This is my mom's ID right there. Yeah, can someone explain to me why I can find Zeba in the Hebrew, even though this is an Egyptian king, but his name is only translated in the Hebrew? Second one, this is my grand uncle right here. His name is Antoine Bozy. Yeah, my mom's uncle right here. Yeah, how comes I can find Bozy in the Hebrew and it means devoted to God? Can someone explain? Maybe I'm bugging. Yeah, but I don't think I'm really bugging, because according to my tribe's oral history, yeah, the Kran people are a remnant of African Jews. Yeah, so I'll let you decide. Am I crazy or am I telling the truth? Okay, so now with the scholarship, I'll try to prove quickly that the Negroes are the Hebrew Israelite. Yeah, all right. So we're gonna start with our dictionary, Zondoven. Yeah, and we're gonna check the definition of Ham. Let's see. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark race, not the Negroes. Yeah? Keep going. But the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites. Yeah? So, not the Negro. You're not a Hamite. You're not an Egyptian. Yeah? And it never says that you're not African, by the way. Yeah? So, stop the coonery, people. Yeah? It just said that Ham is not the progenitor of the Negroes. Now we know that in America and in West Africa and many parts of Africa, there's a lot of Negroes. So, y'all get it. Yeah? Okay. That's one. Now, from Babylon to Timbuktu. Yeah? We're going to go to page 84. It's a classic. Yeah? Let's go to page 84. Yeah, and read. In the year 65 BC, the Roman army under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end on the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave market was full of black Jewish slaves. Alright, cool. Now, let's go to the end, yeah? And let's go to page 132 and see. These facts have particular significance when the presence of Judaism among American Negroes is to be considered. Hundreds and thousands of slaves were brought to America from the Western Africa during these days of the traffic, beginning nearly 400 years ago. Yeah, let's read. More of Judaism survived among West African Negroes in that earlier time. Yeah, so we're going to read a bit more, yeah. As persecuted communities, they were rather more in danger than other Negroes of being raided by war parties and sold as slaves. So what they call Judaism was among the Western African Negroes, right? And we know that our brothers and sisters that have been taken away to slavery are the same as us. So if we in Africa are said to be or are said to have some form of Jewish heritage or Judaism, that must be the same for our brothers and sisters that are being taken away to the New World. Y'all follow me? Yeah? And let's read the conclusion. Yeah? Before Dr. Goodby published his book, The Lost Tribes, a Myth, Rabbi Matthew organized a Hebrew congregation in 1918 and proclaimed that the black people of United States and West Indies are original black Hebrews. There are hundreds of thousands of black African Hebrews scattered throughout the United States, not only in the urban areas, but also in the rural communities of this nation. With the revelation of the ample historical evidence, the authenticity of these black Hebrew can no longer be questioned. However, in regard to the purity of their Judaism among some of these Jews, that is another issue. Okay, so you read now that these people, Rabbi Matthew, he organized a Hebrew congregation and said that the black people in the United States and West Indies are the original black Hebrews. Yeah? Finish with that book. Yeah? Hebrewism of West Africa. Yeah? And let's read what they have to say. Let's read what they have to say. Let's read. Yeah, I'm trying to be as quick as possible for the people. Let's read, and I'm in page 297. Yeah, and then read. So John Ogleby, Master of His Majesty Revealed in the Kingdom of Ireland, published in 1679 a volume on Africa, wherein he speaks of the coast of Guinea as follows. Many Jews also scattered over this region. Some natives boast themselves of Abraham's seed. Yeah? Abraham's seed. Y'all follow me? Yeah? Okay. Now. We're going to jump into the biblical prophecy. Yeah? So, for you to understand that it's not only a matter of being a Hebrew, it also has to deal with the Bible. Alright, Bible now. Yeah? Luke chapter 24. Luke chapter 24, y'all don't understand. Sorry, Luke chapter 21. Luke chapter 21. Everyone, verse 24. Yeah? Check this out. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive unto all nations. Yeah, it says all nations. Yeah? And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. There's only one group of people that have been led away captive to all nations. Yeah, but we're going to carry on. Let's read from the Apocrypha. Yeah, from the Apocrypha. This was in the KJV 1611, yeah, by the way, if you don't really trust new books, if you're a new viewer or whatever, yeah. And we're going to read from Baruch. Yeah. Let's read from Baruch. Yeah, let's read from Baruch, chapter 4. Yeah. And we want verse 6. Yeah. And 7, by the way, if you want. There we go. Baruch, chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. You were sold to the nations. Yeah. Not for destruction, but because he moved Elohim to wrath, you were delivered unto the enemies. Yeah. For ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to Elohim. So some of y'all are guilty of wanting to be Egyptians or Moors and wanting to be Christians and all that. Yeah. And we're still sacrificing to devils up to this day. Because all these things, even Islam and all that, this ain't us. Yeah. So sin, biblical prophecy, right? Yeah. And we're going to see that in real life. Yeah. Matter of fact, let me go back again for another biblical prophecy. Yeah. We're in Deuteronomy 28. Let's read Deuteronomy 28 verse 64. Yeah. Deuteronomy 28. And we want verse 64. Right. Check this out. And Yahuwah shall scatter thee among all people. Remember, we just read that in Luke, okay? Shall be led away to all nations, right? Okay. All people from one end of the earth, even unto the other. Yeah? And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither nor thy father have known, even wood and stone. Wood. Yeah? The cross of Jesus, that is not even true, because what they call Jesus got hanged on the tree. And the stone, the cube of stone over there in Arabia, yeah, that that people that are Muslim worship, yeah, and all these Edomites over there, they worship it, the real Edomites, not the white people, but the Arabs, yeah. These are the gods that we're forced to worship. Yeah. Due to the curse of Deuteronomy 28. Yeah. And remember, we shall be scattered among all people from one end of the earth, even unto the other. What group of people nowadays have been scattered from one end of the earth unto the other? Yeah. And very last one, the classic one, Deuteronomy 28, yeah, verse 68. Let's read. And Yahuwah shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way thereof I spake unto thee. And Egypt is significant for slavery. Yeah. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen, yes, slave men, and bondwomen, slave women, and no man shall buy you. Yeah? Do you want more? Do you want more, maybe? Do you want more? Because I got more. I got all night if y'all want. Yeah? Just to prove you that you are an Israelite. But let's see what history says about what I'm saying right now. Let's see what history says. Yeah? So, we believe in history, a huge book about slave trade. Yeah? A huge book. Yeah? We're dealing with the biblical prophecy and history. And if you put the Bible, yeah, in Deuteronomy 28 or the Curses of the Prophets with a book about the slave trade or Western African history, you'll see that they're actually the same. But I'm not going to talk a lot. I'm just going to go straight to it. Yeah, so let's go to page 10. Let's go to page 10. Right? Remember the Most High said they will scatter us and all that? Yeah? Of innumerable slave transaction linking Europe, Africa, and America, and negotiating the liberty of North America. So, transaction of slave, from Europe, Africa, and America. Remember what I said? It will scatter us from one end onto the other. But it's not finished. Let's go to page 82. Let's go to page 82. Page 82. That's a little bit I'm going to give you. That's a little bit. A little bit. There's way more. There is way more. Let's go to page 82. Let's read. Vasco da Gama, en route for India, stopped at such important future slaving port as Kilwa, and Malindi, and Mozambique Island. Indeed, to observe that in these very large and beautiful cities, a flourish trade in black slave was already carried on. So, these slaves were taken to India and all that. That's black slaves. Remember the Most High said, we'll be scattered from one end of the earth even unto another. We are the only people on this planet that have been scattered all around the world. Y'all follow me? You think it's a game? It's not a game. It's not a game at all. Page 95. Let's go to page 95. Let's go to page 95. I could go through all the book, but no. Because there's a lot of great information I haven't finished to read the book, to be honest with y'all, you know what I'm saying? Let's read this one. 100 black slaves were brought in Lisbon, which is in Portugal, and sent to Diego Colon in Santo Domingo, for he was to organize the sale there. Another 100 were sent direct from Seville in the Trinidad, as a part of an expedition led by Diego Nicuesa. So you got it again and again and again, shipped over India, shipped over all the way Europe, shipped over all the way to America. The Most High said that we'll be scattered from one. And just to finish it, with this book, which is Slave Trade, by Hugh Thomas. I forgot to tell you about it in the beginning, just to finish, Let's see. Remember the Most High said, no man shall buy you. Basically, no man shall help you. With the lonely people, during their slavery that have been dehumanized. Y'all follow me? Let's read this one. In 1511, a complicated controversy was beginning about the treatment of the indigenous people of America. So y'all think over there, some of my brothers and sisters think that the Indians are really, let's see. The argument lasted 40 years, and it's much to the credit of Spain that there was such a debate. What other empire can boast such a discussion and at so high level? During the year 1511 and 13, the most searching question that any imperial nation can ask of itself were at least posed, but the discussion as to whether the Indians were men and whether it was permissible to enslave them completely ignored the statute of black African slaves with their greater experience of agriculture, their greater endurance, and their longer connection with Europe. So, y'all believe you Indians sometimes. They thought you was a man then. But black people are being oppressed for a long time. So, keep saying you're Indian. I don't care about you. I care about my people over there that have been mistreated by the white man and that have been mistreated by the white man for nearly 400 years now. Y'all follow me? So now we've seen the biblical prophecy coming to life. With the lonely people on this planet that have been dehumanized, they were asking themselves if the Indians were men, but did not care about the Africans, or should I say, the Israelite. You follow me now? Yeah? So, once again, yeah, you're not a Egyptian. You're not whatever. You're not an Indian or whatever you want to be. You're not just a simple Negro. You are an Israelite. Yeah? And I've proven to you with all the books. Yeah? Matter of fact, I've proven to you with scholarships and everything. Yeah? Brings you to West Africa. Yeah, Babylon to Timbuktu, the Bible, slave trade, Western African history. Yeah? Apocrypha, a dictionary, and I've proven that the Book of the Dead has nothing to do with the Bible. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you for everything. And we gotta jump into part 2. Yes, there is a part 2. Shalom.